we have Mr. Sanjay Singh amongst us. I would request Sir to come upon the dais. Mr. Sanjay Singh is an alumnus of Delhi University. He joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1976. He has served in Indian missions in Mexico, Germany, Ghana, and France. In the Ministry of External Affairs, New Delhi, he served as the Director in the Office of External Affairs Minister and Joint Secretary and Head of Division dealing with Latin American countries and later establishments. From October 1997 to June 2001, he was India's Consul General in Ho Chi Minh City, and from July 2001 to August 2004, Deputy Chief of Mission in Paris. He held charge in the ministry as Joint Secretary and Additional Secretary Gulf from March 2005 to March 2009. He was India's ambassador to Iran from March 2009 to March 2011. He took as Secretary East in the Ministry of External Affairs in March 2011 and finally retired in end April 2013. On behalf of the entire I Am Indore community, we welcome you, sir. Please accept a small bouquet from our side. I request our director to present the bouquet to sir. I would now request sir to present his views to the audiences present here.
Professor Krishnan, faculty members, incoming PGP batch, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you for inviting me to give this commencement address. I've just heard a very interesting commencement address by Mrs. Bija Purkar, and that will be a difficult act to follow. I congratulate the new alumni who have earned the privilege of being here, educated at this prestigious institution. The education you will receive will be the foundation on which you will build your life. I wish you well. You now join others like you who have the responsibility to make India a leading nation. This will be possible only if we have highly capable managers, engineers, scientists, doctors, academicians, and others of a similar caliber. A strong academic foundation is the basis of producing such talented and trained people. You will receive this at IIM Indore, a premier institution which will instill in you the desire to inquire, to analyze, and to learn, and to value ideas. Most of you will be very successful individuals. But you must always bear in mind that you should, in some manner, give back to society and the people who have nurtured you. I hope you will imbibe these lessons at IIM Indore, which maintains an outreach to society through its activities aimed at providing its alumni rural immersion and social sensitivity, and its association with local schools. Like Mrs. Bija Purkar, I have also got two daughters who are both management graduates, the elder one from IIM Ahmedabad. And I said, what should I say at the commencement address at IIM Pune? And said, why are you going there? They need someone to talk about management. I said, well, all I've learned in my life is diplomacy and international relations. So maybe what I'll do is go off the beaten track and just talk about India's international relations. I'm glad that the Institute has collaborations with a number of similar institutes around the world, and the PG program has an international focus. This is essential as India becomes more and more part of the globalizing world. In the early 70s, when I graduated, self-sufficiency was the bedrock of our economic policy, and our external economic interactions were very limited. Limited exports, essential imports, acquisition of technology, and seeking concessional finance. However, by the time I joined the Foreign Service in the mid-70s, the first oil shock had hit us. we came to realize how events in far-off lands could affect our well-being. Consequently, we had to gear up export promotion. But our export basket was limited. I recall working as a commercial officer in Germany in the early 80s, basically promoting exports of garments and textiles, leather and sports goods, hand tools, tea and coffee. The IT revolution was far off, but despite the IT revolution, all these goods still make up a very good part of our export basket, and this you must keep in mind. The balance of payment crisis in 1991 provided another shock to our economic moorings, and we began the process of liberalizing our economy and enhancing our linkages with the global economy. Investment promotion became the new mantra. This has served us well, leading to increased competitivity, accelerated growth, and increasing prosperity. With a higher growth trajectory and our GDP touching $2 trillion per annum, our international standing has gone up today, and we are members of the G20 group of leading economies. Our international trade has grown fivefold in the last decade from $140 billion to $760 billion in the last fiscal. Foreign investment flows both inwards and outwards grew even faster, increasing over tenfold in the last decade to $47 billion. Remittances from Indians working abroad burgeoned to over $65 billion during the past year. The growth of software exports from India has highlighted to us the importance of global markets, especially those in North America. International economic engagement today is vital given our dependence on imported energy and other natural resources, and a large part of our economy is dependent on it. As managers, it will therefore be essential for you to understand the world around us and our country's relationship with it. I will, in my address, underline the basic principles guiding Indian foreign policy and our major relationship. It is clear that India is in transition in a fast-changing world. Our economy and security is being shaped increasingly outside national boundaries, including in the domain of outer space, seas or cyberspace. Globalization has produced winners and losers, leading to growing power shifts between and within nations and societies. This will require greater understanding and adjustment among nations and a new architecture of global governance to maintain peace and stability, which is vital for our progress and development. As a global interdependence and integration deepen, and as the global center of gravity shifts to our region, Asia, India's engagement with the world will deepen, and we will encounter new challenges and opportunities. India will respond in a manner true to itself. A country with a 5,000-year-old history and culture cannot parrot the opinion of others or follow them blindly. Its responses will reflect ideas such as those of individual liberty and freedom, which are dear to every Indian. India's commitment to internationalism, independence of judgment in the conduct of external relations, support for the democratization of the world order, and contributions to the maintenance of international peace and security are enduring legacies of our national movement. These ideals enjoy strong support across the political spectrum in India and also inform Indian participation in the non-aligned movement and in the creation of transcontinental and regional groups. These groups include the BRICS, which brings together Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Similarly, the IPSA Dialogue Forum brings together India, Brazil, and South Africa. Our engagement with the world continues to be driven by the enduring objectives of creating an enabling environment of peace and security to pursue our national development goals. Ensuring the security of the nation, including energy and food security, and helping India catch the next wave of science, technology, and innovation, and fulfilling our international responsibilities and domestic requirements by participating in Deliberative Security Council, World Bank and IMF to reflect contemporary realities and to improve their ability to address new challenges and provide a supportive international economic environment, enhanced investment flows, transfer of technology, and an open multilateral trading system. As Indian expatriates, investment and trade grow globally in numbers and significance, promoting and protecting their interests and welfare has become an integral part of Indian diplomacy. Indian foreign policy is ultimately the sum total of what every arm of our country does vis-à-vis the countries we interact with, particularly in our immediate neighborhood. The revolution in communication, be it through the internet or social media, has had profound consequences for the world at large, and in the formulation and implementation of Indian foreign policy. There are multiple determinants influencing outcomes. Close partnerships between foreign policy establishment and civil society in its broadest sense with trade and industry, the media, and the growing Indian overseas communities, among others, is equally important. This is critical in dealing with a world which is changing by the day, a world in which there are multiple stakeholders promoting India's interests abroad in diverse fields. As managers working in different areas, you too will contribute to promoting Indian interests abroad and in the fashioning of our foreign policy. I might add that I hope some of you will do this directly by taking up a career in the foreign service. In the last batch, we have 3 graduates from IIM Ahmedabad, currently undergoing training in Delhi. When we look around the world, we can see a pattern that successful countries' economic engagement with their neighbors is generally significant. This is notwithstanding the state of the bilateral relationship. This is true of most countries in Europe. In North America, both Canada and Mexico are among the largest economic partners of the US and vice versa. China's largest economic partners, barring the US, are in its neighborhood, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, and vice versa. The economic relations between China and US demonstrate that countries can continue to do business despite differences. Unfortunately, this is not true of our South Asia. Our trade with our South Asian neighbors is less than 5% of our global trade, even though for some of them, India is their largest economic partner. Our major lacuna is to the west, where not only is the economy of Pakistan largely close to us, but our connectivity to markets in Iran and Central Asia and to energy resources is limited. We have to alter this paradigm. In our immediate neighborhood in South Asia, India has been driven by the vision of encouraging regional integration to bring about peace and prosperity for more than 1.5 billion people living in the region. As part of this vision, India has been implementing a policy of asymmetric engagement in providing greater market access to our neighbors, which enables integration in a mutually beneficial manner. This asymmetry will have to continue simply because India is the largest economy. India's vision of regional economic integration is based on enhanced intra-regional trade in goods and services, investment flows, and enhance regional transport and communication links. Cooperation for capacity building and to enhance a sense of South Asian identity is being undertaken. SAARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, is a vehicle in this process. The challenges to the process of integrating the economies of South Asia cannot be understated. These challenges are rooted in history, geography, and economics, but we will have to persevere. It was therefore heartening to witness a new beginning marked by the presence of South Asian leaders at the swearing-in of the new government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We have, towards this objective, made major efforts in reducing the trust deficit between India and Pakistan and to carry forward constructive and result-oriented engagements towards resolving all outstanding issues peacefully, as well as promoting people-to-people contacts and cultural exchanges. We have welcomed Pakistan's efforts to normalize trade relations with India by moving from a positive to negative list and their eventual elimination through non-discriminatory market access. It is estimated that the indirect trade between our two countries is nearly 3 times the direct trade of over $3 billion per annum. However, we must also bear in mind that for more than 3 decades, the northwestern parts of the subcontinent have seen much turbulence, and this conflict has affected not only India but the entire world. We need to defeat the scourge of violent extremism that has taken root there. However, for progress to be made, it is imperative that the territory of Pakistan and the areas under its control are not utilized for aiding and abetting terrorism directed against its neighbors. It is equally important that the terrorist machinery that draws its sustenance from Pakistan be shut down. As Afghanistan prepares for a historic political, security and economic transition, India is committed to support the efforts of the Afghan people to reconstruct their war-ravaged economy and the creation of a stable, united and prosperous Afghanistan integrated with the South Asian region. Our External Affairs Minister had recently visited Bangladesh. This indicates that we are entering into a new phase of cooperative relationship which is mutually beneficial. Prime Minister, as you know, made his first foreign visit to Bhutan, which indicates the very good status of our relations with Bhutan and the very good win-win solution we have with joint exploitation of hydropower resources there. Similar cooperation can be extended to Nepal, which is greatly dependent on the Indian economy. Today, India and Sri Lanka are working to enhance their cooperation, and also following the conclusion of the armed conflict in May 2009, India has partnered with Sri Lanka in programs for reconstruction and rehabilitation of internally displaced persons. Myanmar is the only ASEAN Association of Southeast Asian nation country with whom we share a land boundary. When we took a look at East policy, we first looked at Myanmar, which is both important for peace and stability on our northeast 10 borders and direct road connectivity to Southeast Asia. We hope that by 2016, you would be able to drive down straight from any place in India to Bangkok through Myanmar. And that would be a great good thing for Indian tourism and foreign tourism into India. Myanmar, along with China, partnered India in the launch of Panchi, whose 60th anniversary was recently marked by a ceremony in Beijing in the presence of our Vice President and the Presidents of China and Myanmar. China, as an immediate and our largest neighbor, is a priority in India's foreign policy, with which we wish to establish a strategic and cooperative partnership. The prosperity and progress of 2.5 billion Indian and Chinese people would be a major driver of the Asian resurgence and global prosperity and stability. China has emerged as India's largest trading partner, and our engagement with China is now multifaceted. Naturally, as between two large countries, there are areas of convergence as well as divergence between our nations, such as on the boundary question. We maintain dialogue with China with the objective of minimizing such differences and bridging them and maintaining peace and tranquility on our border. The big development over the past 2 decades in our continent has been the evolution of the process of Asian reintegration and a shift of the global center of gravity to Asia, owing to the rapid economic growth. The growth in Japan, And then in the tiger economies of Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, and now the rise of China, India, and Indonesia had bolstered this process. The Look East policy informs the process of India reaching out and participating in this economic dynamic, as well as reviving its civilizational contacts with East and Southeast Asia. Initiated in the early 1990s, it was a natural corollary to the economic reform agenda launched in 1991 and our efforts towards globalization. Closer relations with the countries of ASEAN were the core of our Look East policy, given their centrality in the evolving economic and political architecture in the region. The ASEAN-India partnership creates a region of 1.9 billion people with a GDP of over 3.7 trillion. India has a free trade agreement in goods in place with ASEAN, with two-way trade exceeding $80 billion. In the broader Asia-Pacific region, India has developed close economic partnerships with Japan, Korea, China, Australia, and New Zealand. I might mention that all of them are larger economic partners than any country in Europe now. These are countries with whom we also cooperate under the aegis of the ASEAN-centered regional political structures. We have joined the countries in the region in negotiating a region-wide economic space that will be known as the Asian Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. While our Look East policy began with a strong economic emphasis and content, it has expanded to encompass strategic and security engagement in the region. The idea of an Asian federation deeply animated the Indian national movement. Promoting political solidarity and economic cooperation within a newly liberated Asia was one of independent India's first diplomatic initiative, possibly somewhat ahead of its time. More than 6 decades later, many of these ideas have become a reality. We are working to build a regional architecture that promotes cooperation, reinforces convergence, and reduces the risks of confrontation and conflicts, such as those related to the situation in South and East China Seas. A stable and secure Asia, Indian Ocean, and the Pacific region is a key requirement for India's own security and prosperity in this century. You have been seeing the blitzkrieg of ISIS through northwestern Iraq, and the status of Indians in that part of Iraq are being highlighted by the media daily. This has drawn attention to our other flank of India, West Asia, Iran, and the Arab world. Today, the region has acquired particular salience as our largest economic partner, larger than Europe, the US, or China. With our economic engagement exceeding $200 billion per annum, with just the 6 GCC states, over 7 million of expatriate Indians live there, contributing to the economy of the area and sending back valuable remittances estimated at over $40 billion per annum. This sustains about 40 to 50 million Indians every year, 5% of the total Indian population. The region is also the source of 70% of our oil and gas requirements. If the Straits of Hormuz shut down, you will stop driving a car in India. With its burgeoning sovereign wealth funds, it could also become a major investment partner. It will always remain a key part of our neighborhood with great significance for our economy and our security. The future of West Asia is a cause for concern. The increasingly lethal conflict in Syria and now Iraq is not only a tragedy for their people, but also threatens stability and security in the region and beyond. This is symptomatic of the malaise affecting the broader West Asia region, which requires reform of its political and economic arrangements in order to meet the aspirations of its people. Our relations with the developed world have always been essential in acquiring technology, know-how, capital and markets. There is an increasing convergence of interest with the United States, and the relationship between our two great democracies has been transformed into a global strategic partnership over the past decade. The large Indian community in the US strengthened these bonds. The US remains a key source of technology, investment, innovation and resources, and one of the most important destinations for our goods and services. We have a strong and growing defense relationship, an expanding defense trade and collaboration, and increasing intelligence and counterterrorism cooperation. The strategic partnership between India and European Union has been further strengthened by EU's participation in India's development agenda. Germany, France, UK, and other countries of Europe are important trade and investment partners and sources of technology and know-how. With the finalization of the broad-based trade and investment agreement with the EC, our partnership will assume even greater global significance in the years to come. Our special and privileged strategic partnership with Russia is multifaceted, covering areas such as defense, energy, high technology, trade, investment, space, science and education. Russia remains a key defense partner for India as we move into a stage of joint design, development and production of key defense platforms. Vikramaditya, the aircraft carrier recently inducted into the Indian Navy, and the Kudankulam nuclear power project are examples of our strategic partnership. We also have mutual investments and cooperation in a number of areas with great potential such as oil and gas, energy, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, fertilizers and mining. In the developing world, India has historically had close ties with the countries of Africa. In the spirit of South-South cooperation, we have contributed substantially to capacity building in African countries. India also extends concessional finance for developing social and economic infrastructure. India-Africa trade has grown in a decade from $5 billion in 2002 to over $70 billion in 2012, and the continent has become an important source of raw materials and energy. In the pursuit of our commitment for peace and security in the continent, more than 6,500 Indian soldiers participate in UN peacekeeping operations in various parts of Africa. Our engagement with Latin American countries is new and growing into a multifaceted one. In the past decade, our trade and investment cooperation with the region has multiplied manyfold and today stands over 30 billion. As you can see from my preceding remarks, India today is a country with a global presence. India affects and is affected by its relationship with a vast number of countries worldwide. As advances in communication and technology continue to make the world smaller, the interdependence of the global community will only intensify. A Greek philosopher once said, "Change is the only constant in life," and this is increasingly true in our globalized world. Our interaction with the outside world have expanded exponentially, and this will, like it or not, impinge on your lives. It expands the opportunities available to you, but also creates new challenges. In the future, for example, managers with foreign language skills will be more sought after, especially those, perhaps, who know Chinese. When I graduated, options for careers, material possessions, leisure and other aspects of life were pretty simple and limited. It was either a Fiat or an ambassador car. There being limited opportunities in business, it was either government service or the public sector, the armed forces, or as professionals or academics. Your options and choices will be much more varied and complex, and the larger world will constantly impinge on your consciousness as well as be your oyster. I am confident that your stay at IIM Indore will equip you to make the correct choices and deal with the current environment defined by accelerating change. However, in the this process of making a choice, some advice is eternal. Be guided by truth and ethical conduct. Be broad-minded and develop tolerance for multiple viewpoints. Be humble. Always keep your mind open and make knowledge and hard work your partners in life. By adhering to these principles, you may not always succeed, but you can always be proud of yourself and what you stand for, regardless of whether you succeed or fail. With these words, I wish the new PGP batch all success. I also wish I am Indore, its director, faculty and staff, all the best in the years ahead. I'm sure that the Institute will set higher and higher standards of excellence in the future. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. We will be really grateful if you can answer the queries of the audiences present here. We begin with the next segment, question and answers. If you have any queries, you can ask, sir.
Good evening, sir. My name is Ashish. My question is, Nehruji formed the policy of Panchi way back in 1952, and the word has changed quite a lot since then. So do you think there is a vital change required in our foreign policy, and more specifically when we see China, and how relevant this policy is in current times?
Foreign policy would always need to be changed, but there are certain principles which should guide it. There's nothing objectionable at Panchi. Panchi's 5 principles are applicable as today as they were applicable 60 years back. And they're rooted in ancient Buddhist principles that you don't interfere in your neighbor's affairs. You deal with people peacefully. China is our largest, as I said, China is our largest and most important neighbor. Our relationship with China presents us with opportunities and challenges. We have to minimize our differences and increase our contacts and opportunities. We see a great future for both our countries if we can increase our economic connections and economic interaction. If we can sell more pharmaceuticals, more software, more engineering items to China, invite them to participate in India's infrastructure development. This will create a partnership which will help the 2.5 billion people on this planet. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Face in today's world, and how Indian diplomats would challenge string of pearls of China.
Sorry, would you repeat the last part?
How would Indian diplomats would challenge counter string of pearls of China?
Thank you. Every job has its own challenges and opportunities and certain guiding principles which take you forward. As the world changes, as the communication revolution changes, as everything becomes instant, you have to redefine your role as a diplomat, because it's no longer about just informing your host country about what India's policies are, because the world is becoming smaller. But finding those levers which will help in promoting Indian interests around the world. So your whole way of working changes as time goes by, as the situations around you and your environment change. But the most important is the growth in India itself. The growth in India brings about different requirements for the diplomats and what is required by the country. When I started working, there were very few Indians abroad, and the requirement for assisting our overseas Indian community were very minimal. Secondly, we had globalizing, with Indian requirements for energy and natural resources increasing, the work of the diplomat has become different. Secondly, as I said, there are new domains in which you have to have a stake in. The space, outer space. And we are very happy that PSLV could launch those 5 satellites last week. Cyberspace. Cyberspace is going to be the defining warfare of tomorrow. You have to be there at the rule setting. International trade. International environmental rule setting. So an Indian diplomat has now to specialize in all these new areas which were not there. So we have to reorder and reorganize our diplomatic effort and our ministries and various organizations we take support from to meet these new challenges. So that is how I look at it, and I hope I've answered your question. And, oh yes, you talked about the string of pearls. Yes, China naturally, as it expands its presence as an international trading partner, will create facilities which will help its shipping and its maritime security. We have to similarly create for ourselves our own facilities and our own assets around the world, and we are doing that. So I see no real contradiction in they creating facilities for themselves, because this is a natural concomitant action of any global power as it expands abroad.
Rahul sir. Sir, I have, my question is that you were talking about the trade relations between India and the far-off countries like USA, how it is much greater than the trade relationship between India and its neighbors. So, like, there are all the host of problems that India has with neighbors, like starting with the Sri Lanka, there is the LTTE problem, and China, there is the border disputes, and Pakistan, of course, the security issues that India has. So, do you think that India and its neighbors will be able to place these issues aside and concentrate on trade to bring it to an optimal level where Indian economy and the economy of its neighbors will be able to, progress to a level where keeping these issues aside, these cannot be discarded, but trade can go forward. Do you think that something like that can happen? And if so, how long do you think it will take for something like that?
That's what I was trying to say. I think we have to work, the examples I gave you, you see the feuding that is taking place between Japan and China in the East China Sea, where they claim the same islands. And every now and then someone makes a statement against the other. But the Japanese largest investment abroad is in China. The largest trading partner is China, and vice versa. I mean, I'd say it's between Japan, US, and China. It keeps on going one way or the other. So we have to try and, you could have your differences, but you can still create economic partnerships. We have our differences with China, but we still have China as our largest economic partner. We may have differences with Pakistan, but it will be in our mutual interest to develop a partnership with Pakistan also. And we are going to need energy. There is energy in Central Asia, sources of energy. There's sources of energy in West Asia, Iran. We have to get that gas into India. We have to get that oil into India. And we need those markets for our goods and produce to go to. So we have to work on creating normalcy so that normal economic intercourse can take place. Some people estimate that the indirect trade between India and Pakistan is in the order of $14 billion. A lot of Indian tires, for example, which are said to go to Afghanistan, are offloaded in Karachi and put on Pakistani trucks. So there is an opportunity, there is a challenge, and that can be done. I cannot or but I think we have to keep on making an effort that it happens soon.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Nilesh. Sir, you have been a former IFS officer. Sir, if you see the past trends of UPSC clearing exams, many of them are IIT, IIM graduates. The recent result that UPSC had announced, if I am not wrong, Gaurav Agrawal, he was an IIM A graduate. I am Lucknow graduate. So, sir, this trend of IITs and IIM cracking UPSC and joining the civil services. Sir, my question is, do such candidates or do such people feel that the opportunities or the challenges faced in civil services are more greater and fulfilling than that faced in the corporate world?
I think life is a challenge. It doesn't matter whether you're in government service or civil service or corporate world, life is a challenge. And it depends on how you meet this challenge. You can meet it happily, laugh all the way to the bank, or you can feel very unhappy about it. Now, about qualified people, engineers, managers, etc., joining the civil service, we welcome this trend. Because as India progresses, the tasks of the government become more varied, it will need domain knowledge in various areas. And we have been able to use, we have a full division dealing with connectivity in MEA. And we have been very fortunate to have an IIT graduate always leading that division, which has been wiring the MEA, all its offices, and all its missions are brought into one seamless whole. So similarly, when we have people who have had a background in environmental sciences, we make use of them in dealing with our environmental diplomacy. The greatest difficulty in developing countries is in creating efficient systems. And a manager and the people who are like you, who will be taught these skills, are always welcome into the government to try and improve it. And I think we welcome this trend of people from IIMs and IITs and others coming into the civil service. But this is not a new trend, it has always been there. And I had in my bag also a couple of management MBAs.
Sir, I'm Rajat, PGP1 student. I have a question regarding the foreign policy of Indian government, and I'll go back to like last year, or I guess 2 years back, when Maldives suffered a coup, and we had this Indian government, they were not certain what stand they should take. And after some time, we had this issue regarding the GVK, I'm not sure about the company name, but the airport issue. And after some time, we gave political asylum to the incumbent. I think something like that. So how do we as managers move around such a situation and to have the minimum impact on the business?
I think it's a very good question. You've found an example where politics, international relations, corporate interests and business all merge. Firstly, let me say, it wasn't a coup. What happened there was the duly elected president was removed through a legal judicial process and a new president took over. Thereafter, there have been elections in that country, and through a new process of democratic change, a new president has taken over. Secondly, about Indian involvement, yes, we support democracy, and we support democratic movements around the world. And we are very keen that there be no disturbance in countries in our neighborhood and we try, at their request, help them in going through difficult transitions. And we are very happy that we were able to assist in a peaceful transfer of power and a peaceful transition to a regularly elected democratic president. Thirdly, yes, I think it is GMR which had an airport project in Mali. A certain administration had handed it over to GMR. The new administration perhaps felt that it could not afford it, but still the laws of the land take precedence, and this matter is now under arbitration in Singapore, where, as per due process of law, a judgment will be given and which will be followed by the two parties, which is the government of the Republic of Mali and GMR. So I think things proceed in the world even when corporate interests are involved, as long as there is a due process of law in solving these matters. Thank you very much. I quite enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir. It was a great pleasure to have you amongst us. On behalf of the entire I Am Indore community, we thank you, sir, for giving us your precious time. As a part of a tradition, please accept a small memento from our side.